If you're vulnerable to psychic damage from roguish language, stay away from these gibbering mouths. But if you intend on listening to this podcast about enriching your fantastical group hallucinations, you're too far gone already.
We are the brothers, both DMs and players. I'm the one that's never broken a bone, Travis.
And I'm the one who's smashed and crashed my way through life, Jordan.
Welcome to the Hook and Chance podcast, soothing your stab wounds with satisfying salve for incredible games.
Nice S usage. No, so
It's called alliteration, you dingus.
I'm not a bard. So you've never broken a bone. Is that because of a lack of excitement or some kind of super bone strength?
No, it's just careful risks.
You're saying you're smarter than me. That's fair. I've only broken two, though. My arm and my head bone.
And technically, I've smashed my face and my nose in, but that wasn't a bone. That was just cartilage.
Fair enough.
Escaped by on a technicality.
So what does this all have to do with the Hook and Chance podcast that we're recording right now?
Well, you know what I struggle with to this day?
Not drinking booze. Self-control. Moderation.
Any of the above, sure. And also how to resolve hit points and healing magics and things like that.
Okay.
It's challenging as a DM or as a player to work through descriptions of hits and slashes and cuts and bruises and then taking just a quick 30-minute cat nap and then I'm back at it for some reason, like I'm ready to go again.
A short rest is double that time. You got a whole hour to relax
fine.
And stitch your wounds together with the raw force of will. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Apply some first aid.
I did get stabbed through the lung in that last fight, but
I think some topical antiseptic will help.
And if I hold my breath, it'll give it a chance to
if
heal.
I just keep my pinky finger in this hole in my chest, I can breathe like a normal person.
There we go. Good to go.
But in reality, if you give me like a solid paper cut, like one of the ones that has the little flap on there, that's gross. That just grossed me out. Yeah, if you give me something like that, like I'm down for the count. I'm a bit of a baby, and
for the day,
yeah, I'm not holding stuff with it, like especially if it's on like your palm or something. Oh, that's
you're
gross.
Definitely not going to be your best in a fight.
Yeah, but I mean that's Give me a paper cut on my palm and I'm not holding a sword is what I'm saying.
And sometimes I like do a roll across the floor and I hit my head too hard and the whiplash puts me out for the day. Like I don't want to do anything.
And for those of you that are keeping track, that is not just a for instance. That is a real anecdote from Jordan's recent history. He gave himself whiplash doing a cartwheel roll, a somersault.
We've all been there.
Have we?
Every week for the past 6 years. Well, we don't get into fights with monsters and things like that, but how much punishment do you think a real adventurer could take?
I would say heroically more than myself.
Yeah.
But still, you have to resolve that, like, oh, the DM just described me getting slashed across the arm and stabbed a couple of times, and the goblin just, like, gnawed on my face.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be great. Like, you're not going to be feeling at your best. Not enough for a short rest. And then again, I mean, maybe you're playing in a high magic setting, and somebody can just wave their hands, and you've got all of your wounds have been magically cured. But I think there's some other ways that you can kind of take that approach.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important, again, to think ahead just a touch on your flavor, because too many times have I played some type of healer and my healing kind of devolves into erotic rubdowns or whispers. So I don't want to turn everybody that I play into a low-key pervert.
Hey there, buddy. You want a massage? Just sit back. I'll rub your shoulders.
My palms are moist from all the fighting.
Gross. Okay, so that's why we're going to attempt to fix how we resolve some hit points things. So we're going to start off in our first segment, Strategy Stateroom. We're going to talk about a bunch of different approaches to HP and kind of running out and what that looks like.
Then we'll do Kinship Camp. where we're going to talk about role-playing better healing from your characters and what kind of concepts you have.
And then we're going to finish off with some Timora's Tavern, where Jordan and I are just going to dick around with some movie examples of how healing can play out in a cinematic way.
Yeah, because we like movies.
We waste a lot of time watching movies. All right, on to Strategy Stateroom.
This is the Strategy Stateroom, where inventive and cunning tactics are crafted for when they're needed most.
So in this Strategy Stateroom, we're going to take another look at HP and how it can operate than the standard D&D fantasy fare.
Yeah, and I think kind of where we start with this is the whole idea that HP is a game mechanic. And so because most of us have grown up with video games at this point, I think it's a very, very easy mental leap to just picture HP in D&D as a health bar. And when the health bar gets depleted, you're dead.
Very much removed from reality. There's no cause and effect to the health bar.
And that's why we end up kind of visualizing stab wounds as depleting your health bar. But that's kind of where we get into this tricky area where we're picturing all of these different stabs and cuts and bruises. And I've sustained I've sustained a Warhammer attack to the frickin' dome, and I'm still going somehow. Like, I'm not dizzy, I'm not confused, I'm not suffering any ill effects.
I was in bed for 3 weeks when I got one of those.
Yeah. If you're kind of into the mindset of playing advanced chess, I think a lot of people have that mentality around D&D, and that's cool for you. But
more mechanics based. But we like to delve into the role playing side, which includes getting hit.
Yeah, if you haven't noticed yet, we definitely slant towards the role play aspect here.
Mario had 1 hit point, I guess, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Doot.
2 hit points with the mushroom.
2 hit points was his max. That reminds me, like, the challenge here is describing somebody being stabbed by a sword and it reducing their HP by 8. And that's fine, but beyond first level, that won't be fatal. So that's why we also end up in the, like, you've suffered like 16 stab wounds at level 7 or something like that. And it's really not, it's not conducive to, like, picturing yourself in that role and really nice role playing, because you yourself know that you could not take 16 stab wounds before succumbing to heavy blood loss.
Yeah.
So the opposition here, and this is verbatim from the player's handbook, hit points represent a combination of physical and mental durability, the will to live, and luck, end quote. So what we're actually talking about here is that there's actually a lot of different types of damage that can affect your HP. But we'd argue that HP is
a lack of energy, not necessarily blood loss or severe brain injury.
Yeah, well, it's your ability to keep fighting. So very cinematically, and that's what we love about this game, is the role-playing, the intensity, the cinematic effects of a really great game of D&D.
Yeah, the most memorable moments from any game are the ones that you picture in your mind like a movie.
Totally. And so a way to start to consider HP is, again, that will to keep fighting, that ability to continually dodge and duck and dip and dive and dodge.
Wrenches and dodgeballs.
So it's your ability to keep going, not your ability to take damage. So what does that actually mean for combat?
It means hits aren't actually landing. People aren't actually stabbing you through. With bludgeoning, it's a little easier to imagine, but your ability to keep dodging and ducking and taking hits confidently is just being depleted. Like, you're losing steam, you're losing energy.
So when the hero is being pummeled by the massive orc that is just driving home hit after hit after hit, but they're not necessarily landing. You're hitting them away with a hand, or you're deflecting them, or you're moving out of the way.
Your shield arm, you're just getting bashed on your shield.
And you're taking all of those hits fine, but they're not actually dealing any damage. But your energy, or your HP in this case, is being depleted until eventually you cannot deflect any more blows, and that final one hits and knocks you the F out.
Yeah, so you're saying that a sledgehammer from an orc could hit and deal 8 hit points worth of damage, but you're still blocking it with your shield. You're just feeling that in your arm. Like, holy crap, that hurt.
Exactly. So when the DM is like describing these bone-crunching hits directly to your skull, that's where we get into that dissonance between how much damage could you really take if you were doing that. Whereas, yeah, if you were moving out of the way, you'd be able to sustain 40 HP worth of energy depletion rather than 40 HP versus just blunt force trauma to your brain.
And I've tried.
And what's really cool about this is it just makes combat far more dramatic and cinematic, being described to you the way that your character is narrowly avoiding what would be a super fatal blow. That's where the skill comes in, not in the ability to just like headbutt and continually take just like, oh, I've got like 16 holes in me. How heroic am I that I'm still standing? No, it's cool when you can dodge.
And speaking of the drama, I think as a DM, it's really hard for me when I do use those like, okay, so he's got a rapier and he stabs you and deals 8 hit points. Okay, he stabs you again. Okay, now this one puts you to 0, but what am I going to do to you now? Just stab you again? Like, I'm not going to cut your head off.
Yeah, so the way I would see this playing out in combat a lot more. So when we are in combat, if you consider that whole 6 seconds is a round, you've been taking damage round after round after round for a grand total of 36 seconds of fighting. Now, I can tell you personally, another way that we can consider this is that adrenaline, that energy depletion.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a true story. When I was about 17, I was walking around with my friend, and they weren't looking when they were crossing the street. Just out of the corner of my eye, I saw something flash. Turns out it was the windshield on a nice summer day, and I grabbed the back of their shirt and pulled them just 2 inches out of the way because it was right there. And I can tell you right there that my adrenaline spiked through the roof in just that split second. My heart rate shot up, and it fell me. Like, it brought me down to my knees for a solid like 20-30 seconds after that. I was wobbly legged, and I was just like, holy shit, I almost saw somebody die. But that kind of adrenaline, when you're being, I can imagine something similar when you are being assaulted by this massive monster that's just clawing at your face and your eyes. You're gonna be brought down. Your adrenaline's gonna spike.
Yeah,
and
at level 1, you're not gonna have that much experience with handling your adrenaline, so it's gonna spike and crash way quicker. Whereas as you level up, your adrenaline just doesn't go through the roof as quickly because you know your way around a fight,
and you've learned the ways to dodge and parry and deflect and taunt and slip past your enemy to flank them and things like that. That's where the skill in leveling up comes from.
Yeah. Not from literally getting more blood in your body or something. I don't know how it works.
I have more blood to just share around.
Take some. Have a cup.
It's only 5 hit points. So on the flip side there, you've got lots of different ways to describe near misses that are more cinematic. Like this shining, going back to the rapier example, the shining tip of that rapier is moving towards your neck at an incredible pace, and a subtle split-second shift of your body, and the sword plunges directly into the loops in the straps of your chainmail on your shoulder, narrowly missing vital organs.
And that's, I think, a really cool point is when a DM has an awareness of the characters and their strengths. I think that's really cool, and I'm trying to do that more as a DM because the difference between deflection off of armor and dodging, when I describe the armor-laden knight as dodging all the time, it kind of takes away from that character's strengths.
Yeah, but when you describe that paladin with his tower shield, just like boom, 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 and he just keeps being pummeled, and he keeps deflecting, and he's getting angry, and he's shifting and moving and throwing those glances, throwing the enemy off of their trajectory or center of balance. Yeah, that's cool. Other ways to kind of reach 0 too Like when we're talking about zero being unconsciousness. Zero being unconsciousness doesn't necessarily have to be entirely unconscious. And again, I know we started this episode by saying that I've never broken a bone, but I've messed myself up in a lot of other ways. So here's another true story. I have a scar above my right eye from a headbutt, and it split my eyebrow totally open. And for those of you that might not have sustained a wound to the face, your face bleeds a lot. And I had blood in my eyes in a half a second. I couldn't see. I was blinded. I was basically down.
Yeah.
And for anybody getting the misunderstanding that I'm any kind of badass who headbutts or gets headbutt by people, it was because we were practicing old school Mortal Kombat starting animation loops when we were drunk.
Very cool. Very good way to get injured.
So not cool. But yeah, it was a rogue headbutt. But yeah, that brought me down to zero.
And I think that you should tell that story when people ask about the scar. You say, I got it in Mortal Kombat. Not practicing for Mortal Kombat. But I've also gone to 0 HP in real life, which I wasn't unconscious. I was just unable to get up physically, where I was jumping over the back of a bench and my foot caught, and I just did a pendulum swing completely, chest and face planted on the ground. And that was it. Like, I couldn't breathe for a bit. I was trying to catch my breath. It's the classic, I was winded, but I've never been so thoroughly winded.
Yeah.
Where, I was just laying there for minutes.
It just down and out.
I was out of the fight. If my friends were sword fighting goblins in front of me, I would not have been able to help, for sure.
That's fair. So I think from a DM's perspective, instead of describing how they got hit, ask how they avoided. And if you are a player, then consider that as well. What are your character's strengths that you can describe how you narrowly avoided? Did you distract? Did you do the old, jazz hand, look over here? But yeah, if somebody casts Cone of Fire, how do you get out of that?
As which character? Wibble? My monk?
Sure.
Well, a Cone of Fire, I'm definitely just rolling to the side as quick as I can.
Yeah, so dodgy, small,
Might throw my hat up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. If somebody engulfs you in flame and fire, you can pull your cloak around and say that, as a free action, you pulled your cloak over you. Now your cloak is on fire. Now you have to rip it away. Now next time you're in town, you have to resupply and get more stuff. Your certain pieces of your armor took damage in that fight, and therefore you have to repair. You have to get a new cloak because it was burned by that dragon fire.
Or you have to loot somebody. But then at least you've got the flavor of having a new cloak with a fur on it or something like that.
And it makes things like Cloak of Fire Resistance that much more interesting.
Yeah.
So then you get a magical Cloak of Fire Resistance. Now all of a sudden you can use that cloak as a shield, take the HP damage, but also describe yourself as using your Cloak of Fire Resistance to half that damage.
Going through traumatic incidents is a great way to look for specific magic items rather than just thumbing through the...
No doubt. Yeah. And just as a kind of final thought on that, this is something that I do with every one of my characters. I really love it because I feel like my characters become more grizzled and gnarled over time. But I love that final blow whenever my character does drop below 0. If the DM described a specific kind of hit, if my character drops below 0, I get scars. My character gets scars from whatever did that final blow.
Yeah. So you write down what that final attack was so that you can think through what that scar would look like.
Yeah. If I was in death saves, something serious must have put me down. And just like the headbutt, I now carry a scar from that one split second of not having enough HP, not having enough energy to keep fighting. I now carry a scar. And so most of my characters, I have little notes on where all of their scars and where all of their wounds and what they came from.
Yeah, just adds a lot to it. My last character had some kind of a tentacle monster attacking his face. And I like to imagine him as having a pink scar with those circles in it.
Right on. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'd say that kind of wraps it up. We've pummeled that into into oblivion.
Into unconsciousness.
Yeah.
Into death saves.
All right, move on to Kinship Camp.
This is Kinship Camp, where rich histories and diverse quirks are explored between weary adventurers around the safety of the fire.
All right, so just because Travis and I love to get into the actual playing a little bit, and hopefully it gives some ideas, in this kinship camp, we're going to play with some typical healing spells common to clerics, bards, and druids, and see how they could kind of be flavored differently.
Specifically, Cure Wounds and Healing Word.
Role-playing concepts could be applied to all of them, so we'll just stick to the simple ones. Because again, just like the attacking and losing HP, it's kind of tricky to imagine wounds magically healing closed or giving someone energy sometimes. I often just play it off as, okay, the number is back up and done.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very similarly to how we were just speaking about treating HP, if you do treat HP as if it were the ability to continue the fight despite all odds, despite the excessive amount of fighting that's already taken place, you're heroically finding just that little bit more. You're reaching deeper, and maybe it's the cleric that's helping you do that by casting Healing Word.
And that gives you a lot more options, I think, with the role-playing about getting them back up or healing them than the stitching wounds closed magically.
Yeah, magical wisps that just somehow miraculously heal an open wound, or you literally just get the thread and the thimble out.
I'm faster at it.
Get to quilting your broken body back together.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start with Cure Wounds, which has a verbal and a somatic component, and that's the hand gestures.
Yeah.
Just because it took me about 6 years to learn what somatic meant, so for our listeners. So if we were to start kind of simply with clerics, they have a lot of options. You can be a good cleric, bad cleric, anywhere in the middle cleric. But if you just kind of imagine the standard cleric of someone like Pelor, the god of light, your verbal component could be just a uplifting word or two, like feel the truth, feel the light from on high.
Yeah.
And you could place a hand on the victim's forehead or on their body somewhere, but I like forehead. It's kind of thematic. Upright on the forehead, not sideways like you're checking for sickness. Like a hand over the skull kind of thing. And one hand raised up to the sky, to your god. And energy channels down the cleric's arm into their core of their body, giving them a feeling like being doused in clothes straight out of the dryer, or those
that wonderful warm feeling.
Yeah, those good feelings, or something from the character's backstory if you have that on hand, or if you can remember it, a memory that comes to mind, and shining a pale blue light out of their mouth and eyes as regaining that energy and will to fight.
Yeah, feeling rejuvenated. And with that, I like the extra flavor of that being not from the cleric. Clerics get it from their god. So, I mean, you can flavor it however you want, but I love the idea of I'm reaching towards the heavens to channel.
Yeah.
Like, please, this isn't just a well of energy that you have inside you to just be like, here you go. Here's a 2d8.
And I always like the idea of like asking your god to heal this person.
Yeah,
if you're that kind of cleric.
You're like begging them to hear your request, your ask. I need to help my friend in this moment now. And that's dramatic.
Yeah. What's another way to theme the cleric?
Well, I don't know. Kind of spinning off of what you said with the like glowing hands. I like the idea of actually like tracing a holy symbol that's marking you for some kind of being bestowed more energy or more will to push harder and further. So, if the cleric kind of traced a symbol on the back or on the forehead or on the hand of somebody that was marked for needing a blessing from their god.
Okay. And it kind of glows an energy, something like that?
Yeah, so that's your somatic component. And then you could always, you throw in a little flavorful request from your god. By Grabthar's hammer.
Grabthar?
Grabthar.
What's he the god of?
The Galaxy Quest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Totally forgot.
Or something like that. You could say Pelor still needs us or something like it can also be kind of cool, like an ask of the adventure that you're trying to heal. Like, Pelor isn't done with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, get your ass up kind of stuff.
Or if you're kind of afraid of your guide, you draw the mark and then you turn your head and shield
This
yourself.
could be bad.
Hope this works.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
that's
that
good.
idea that clerics don't necessarily know if they're
Yeah. They're not like a
spellcasting is gonna
wizard.
work.
They're not like, I've done this 80,000 times
Yeah, I've
scientifically.
practiced. Yeah. Okay, so what about bards? How do they cast Cure Wounds?
Well, bards are super fun because their energy does come more or less from them and their expertise of art or sound or just the power of the magical weave that they understand. And they're all based about charisma. And I think that this is the opportunity to use bards to talk somebody into regenerating, to fill them with just a resolve, a confidence that comes from your charisma. So you could do something as a bard like, you hear that? That's the demons, as you're also using one of your minor, I can make sounds in the background. So you're making the sounds of fire crackling or
Prestidigitation? Yeah.
or cackling of demons. You hear that? That's the demons in the abyss, cackling, waiting for your soul. Is today the day you give it to them?
Damn.
Will that get you back on your feet when you're on your knees?
A little terrified of our bard now, but yeah, I'm sure it would do.
Little fiddle music in there.
Spinning off of, again, what you were saying about bards being the talky kind, I like the idea, and I think people like to play bards that are a little bit cheeky, they're a little bit dickish.
Yeah.
So you could play always a bard that's like, it's either a grab of the wrist, you know, the bro grab wrist, pull up from being down or something like that. Because usually when you're casting Cure Wounds, it's not like a run by slapping, but I think that could probably work too.
I think going back to that low key pervert, I've seen a lot of ass slapping
Yeah.
as a cure wounds spell before too.
Yeah. But what about just saying we've been through far worse, or I don't know, don't let me outlive your ass, as you grab them by the wrist and pull them back to their feet.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that very, very cinematic. We've been through the shit. Now let's keep fighting moment.
Yeah. Or, you could also, I like the idea of having a bard that doesn't take the battle seriously because they're usually not the frontline fighter. If you had like a barbarian that kept getting its ass handed to it, they keep going down in the big combat, and the bard is like trying to casually play tag in the middle of combat. It's like, you're it, don't let me win, asshole, as he kind of runs past. And yeah, so you've got that verbal and that somatic.
Oh, wow. You could play, you just gave me a weird character concept from that, which is playing a bard and a barbarian as two separate characters, but the bard just haunts the barbarian into a rage and dodges behind enemies. And the barbarian's trying to hit the bard the whole time. It keeps smashing into enemies. That'd be great.
But seriously, you could totally play that as two characters in a character concept of just two friends, but one is really antagonistic towards the other and never takes the very dire circumstances or the immense amount of punishment that, say, a tank would take very seriously, and just kind of laughs it off cheekily as they run around casting Cure Wounds.
Yeah, that character that doesn't quite understand the impending doom of the situation, I think is sometimes done in movies, and I think that's the way I handle really intense situations sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when I was swept out to sea in the undercurrent.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was saved by a very kind soul with a surfboard. But yeah, when I was getting swept out farther and farther from shore, I kept being weirdly positive, not realizing the situation. I was just like, yeah, I can make it. I can keep paddling for a while.
Yeah.
There's got to be land around here somewhere.
Literally the ocean. So, what about druids?
On to druids. Druids are fun. I especially like gross druids. You've played one before. You played a goblin that made really nasty healing potions and stuff like that.
All Cure Wounds and things like that was flavored as like topical stuff that he would chew up in his mouth. So he'd like have like a bag of mushrooms and all kinds of other grasses and things like that, and he'd mix it with his own saliva, chew it up, and then spit it into somebody's mouth. It's pretty gross.
You take that another step and you could have a magical druid that exudes some kind of, so somebody like a lizard folk or a goblin or a kobold, or really just a nasty human if you wanted. But their druidic magic gives them a secretion to scrape off and add to their healing.
God.
You could apply it to their wounds, their skin, just as a topical rub, their eyes maybe.
And that really causes every other player in the party to not, like, when people are like, oh yeah, I'm down like 4 or 5 HP. I could probably use a heal. It's like, no, I'm good on the healing. Thank you.
No thanks.
I'll wait until I'm near death to ask you to massage whatever mucus you're considering.
And there's all kinds of animals in real life that we use stuff from in things like perfume, which is just disturbing to me. But ambergris?
Yeah.
What the hell?
We're not
people
getting
thinking.
Yeah, who thought of that the first time?
Yeah, anyways, okay. Look it up if you want to know, if you don't know. Okay, what's a better idea than mine?
Well, one that's less barf-inducing
Yeah.
might be that, that typical route that you would take with a druid, being like a spirit of the forest or like kind of a watchful protector of nature. I could see a druid clenching her fist above the earth and like pulling healing energy out of the earth. Not necessarily like healing energy, but just more energy, like imbuing
Life energy from the world.
Yeah. And you're just kind of, she's like dragging wisps of green and blue healing energy swirls out of the ground to the person that they're trying to heal.
Yeah.
And then to their back, just Hadoukening all of that energy into them,
Yeah.
propelling them forward, infused with energy to keep the fight up.
Take a deep breath of fresh forest air that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay, well, what about moving on to the next spell? What about Healing Word for clerics?
Okay. It's kind of similar, low-level healing, but this one's from a distance is the big difference in flavor that we're considering.
So you don't need the somatic component. You don't need the touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked about spell casting in a previous episode where you can come up with all kinds of cool verbal components rather than just something like, I cast Healing Word. The word is word.
Working my way through the dictionary.
Apple.
So what about, all right, how about a cleric with a bit of a darker bent? I always loved the idea of a sin eater. So for those of you that might not know, sin eating is a redemptive practice where a person will consume a ritualistic meal to absorb the sins of someone else to absolve them before they die.
Are we talking this is real?
Yeah, Google it. It's some pretty intense stuff. But regardless of your beliefs in that, what if your cleric was taking the pain for you? So taking the energy, taking the pain before it's actually dealt. They could basically take that and swear to their god of Ilmater or whatever that they're going to pass that pain on to someone that's more deserving of it.
Oh, cool.
So it's I'm going to store this energy. And because your cleric is probably going to go and do some damage with a sword, you're taking that and you're passing it on to that next target.
Storing it up for, I like that. It doesn't have to mechanically do any more damage or anything like that. It's
No, you're deferring pain and energy onto something else.
Mm-hmm. That's good. You can just come up with godly quotes all day. Things like, today is not your day of judgment, or I like going to I've mentioned this before, but the Inspirobot website.
Oh, yeah.
That comes up with random quotes and then throwing a couple god words in there. But I like the idea of your connection with your god as a cleric maybe being a little more fragile. We were talking about that a little bit. But if the cleric had to barter with their god about a specific character, like, okay, I know that he killed 5 people yesterday, and I know that he didn't know they were innocent, but please just heal him this time. And yes, he maimed some animals but the animals were attacking us.
Yeah, they were owlbears. They were after they're going to eat us. But
so please, just this time, I'll try my best to stop asking you for this. And it might be, you could explain this to your party or just play it out when you're healing, but it could be harder to heal characters not aligned with you and your morals.
Oh, yeah.
So you're just like, I'm trying just to hang on. Like,
I'm begging here,
yeah.
and they're not giving me the heals.
But in any kind of healing capacity, like it just could be more physically taxing for you as a cleric to channel your god's energy to someone not aligned with your beliefs.
Yeah, totally.
And then, of course, you could make a deal afterwards with the character that you healed. Try and make a deal, because it's hard to do after the fact. But saying that it might be tougher if for the next heal if you don't do something that my god or myself would want you to do.
There you go. For those righteous clerics, it's just like, hey, I need you to start working with me here. You go to the party rogue who's always playing the dick and just be like, listen, next time you think about, trying to rip somebody off, let's talk about my god's ideas of what that means.
I need to see you help somebody before I heal you again. Okay, so think about that. Or just pay me 10% more of the loot that we get.
Oh.
For God.
Right. It's not going into his pocket. Okay, so what about bards? What would your take be on healing word with bards?
Well, with bards, from a distance, I would imagine it would have to be sound related in some sense, and you could do instruments, but I like the idea of vibrations and things like that. And have you ever seen those singing bowls that you rub the stick around and it creates such a cool sound?
Sure.
I think a bard could use one of those to target somebody with their healing magic, hit or rub one of those, and that makes the souls of both the bard and the target come out of their bodies for a brief moment.
Damn!
And play this out as quickly or as slowly as you would want. But this is where my mind went, is that the bard's soul would go over and wrestle your soul back into your body.
Jesus.
If you're like really on the ropes.
Holy
it's just
shit.
Like your soul's not going anywhere. I guess I imagine this more as like you're down to unconsciousness.
That's the combat that's happening, is just like your soul's trying to leave your body and the bard's soul comes over and just beats the living shit out of your soul back into your body. Just like kicking and punching.
I like the idea of stuffing it in there like a stuff sack in a sleeping bag. Just jam it in. But if you want to do a cooler concept than that, that's fine.
I'm gonna do a bit of a cop out. I think the bard, because it's healing word and you only need one, just survive. Robert Downey Jr.'s character from Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. Sometimes those one word lines are dramatic. They're just as dramatic as something more elaborate and weird. So yeah, I think it totally works. A Reddit user named Maktaka had a really cool idea around the soul leaving the body too. And just quickly here, they wrote that their warlock casts Spare the Dying by channeling his patron's demonic energy to see beyond the material and spot the escaping wisps of the dying soul.
Ooh.
With his hands charged full of fiendish power, he grasps the escaping tendrils of life and forcibly shoves them back into the body. One last surge of burning power to seal the wounds shut, scalding the body and sealing the soul so it can't escape again. The dying is indeed spared, albeit with a soul that's been manhandled by the powers of the abyss and a body that's sporting some new burn scars. But if they were awake to feel it, they'd probably call it the most painful thing they ever experienced that left them feeling better afterwards.
Good Lord, that's very warlocky.
Yeah.
That is just, yeah.
But warlocky or like a darker cleric, like you were saying, or
there's
even
lots
a
of
druid.
different ways
like
to,
you could do a druid that's more in tune with the necromantic side of life.
All right, so what about druids?
Okay, well, speaking of druids, I think druids, for me, would use kind of more of that fantasy language as their words. So I used one of those translators, the Elvish translator, to get this one real quick, which is Pansina Air, which is fix this one.
Your translations are always super, like they're not eloquent when you translate them.
No, that's the beauty of it. But I could see a druid lighting some magical herbs, you know, something like ashwagandha or one of those types of things. Or just some cinnamon and chili powder. Really
right in the eyes.
But lighting some herbs on fire and blowing the smoke over to their target. Oh. Their target's like down and ragged or just like trying to keep fighting.
Yeah.
You blow the smoke over and it goes straight into their mouth and their lungs.
Straight into the lungs through their nose.
and they get that rush of adrenaline, like we were talking. Their senses are sharpened. They can hear their heartbeat.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like, I'm ready. I'm in it.
That's cinematic shit right there. That's good. Well, I thought more along the lines of like creatures from the Fae. And then if we're talking about like a Fae-based druid, you could describe conjuring creatures from this other realm to crawl all over a character that is currently in the midst of battle.
Fae can be kind of creepy sometimes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It can be whimsical, it can be creepy, it can be weird. But imagine like a dozen or so of these small, tiny sized creatures that are kind of ethereal, kind of not, and they're kind of crawling all over the party member that's currently just being pummeled within combat. And what if those Fey creatures were basically helping you within the combat? So giving you more HP. And now for the next little while, those creatures are like taking the blows for you. What would be a mortal wound, they are now being stabbed in your place.
They're kind of like giving you that breathing room to collect yourself.
Yeah.
For a moment. And then, they could go away as quickly or as slowly as you would want.
Well, as soon as your health gets whittled down as well. So yeah, if you're sitting there being pummeled and the healer's trying to give you a little bit of extra boost, now all of these creatures are just crawling all over and helping deflect blows and helping you in various different ways.
Yeah, that's cool. Am I right in saying that's kind of like the Ghibli films? And that sometimes is like the spirit world creatures, and they're just like all over the place in their design and their physical appearance?
Yeah, they're bananas, weird looking.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we've covered lots of spells and lots of characters, so...
I'm exhausted. I need a healing spell now.
All right, I'll give you some Red Bull. We're going to go over to Timora's Tavern and talk about some epic fights from movies and how the heroes got back up and kept on fighting, probably because magic's healing.
Probably.
Welcome to Timora's Tavern, where absurd games of fortune and skill are played for the amusement of all.
All right, so movie fight scenes. They're dramatic, they're epic. The hero always goes down to zero and something gets them back on their feet. And here's how we interpret them with a D&D lens.
Okay.
Because that's fun. And maybe you can take some of these ideas and jam them into your games like a sleep sack, a soul in a sleep sack. So what do you got? Your first fight?
Well, I got literally Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Probably one of the greatest fight scenes ever filmed. One of the most shocking and awful fight scenes. One of the most heart-wrenching fight scenes I've ever seen. The Mountain versus Oberyn Martell, the Viper.
Just in case you didn't imagine that we would, we're going to get into some spoilers. So if you don't want any fight scene spoiled for anything.
If you haven't seen this fight scene yet and you're still not watching Game of Thrones or haven't finished it, you're not gonna.
I know, but I just mean like for all of our, I know that we're talking mostly about older movies, but just spoilers.
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 Sure. Yeah. Anyways. So the fight, if you recall, you've got Oberyn. He kind of starts the fight and he's being pummeled blow after blow by the Mountain. And the Mountain is just, this is that like blow after blow. And it's Oberyn that's being whittled down to zero, even though he hasn't taken a hit. Because again, in real combat, you can't take hit after hit to the frickin' face.
Yeah.
You have to keep dodging and moving. And that's exactly what the Viper does. And so his health is slowly being whittled down by the Mountain. And none actually strike, but it depletes his HP. Then, when he's down on his last couple of hits, last couple of HP, he then gets the upper hand and slices the Mountain's leg. And then just wrecks the Mountain. Like, the Mountain is down. He's in pretty much death-saving throws.
Doesn't he give him a stab?
Yeah, he gives him like a couple of stabs.
Yeah.
Like, he gets wrecked. And... yeah, slashes his limbs and topples the big bastard down to zero.
I breathed easy. This is when I said, whew.
But using What I'm going to say is relentless endurance, the feature that orcs get. He comes back up with 1 HP and does the old squish time. And
Oh, no.
But that's exactly how that would work in a D&D game.
That's the perfect example of an orc getting back up.
Yeah.
That's great. And what else would he be? The mountain?
Oh, yeah, he has to be.
Other than maybe a Goliath, but...
Yeah. Okay.
So one of my favorite fight scenes, just because it's from my childhood dreams, was The Dark Knight Rises, Batman versus Bane.
Oh, yeah. You can recite this entire scene verbatim.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally. So Batman throws some punches, but Bane's AC is too high, and Bane is blocking them without really even expending himself at this point in the beginning of the fight. They trade blows for a while, knocking hit points down all over. Batman starts to get a few little hits. Bane's getting better ones. Batman's HP is whittling down.
Bane's just getting some really good heavy blows. Like he's rolling 1d12 and Batman's rolling 2d4.
And Bane knows, like some characters do in D&D, Bane knows he's got a big pool of HP.
Yeah.
He's taken a few hits and he's fine with that.
Yeah.
So Batman uses Featherfall to get away with his cape.
Okay,
he jumps down into that sewery area.
Yeah.
But Bane follows with a high athletics check on the chain and he pulls himself down. Batman casts Prestidigitation to distract Bane with some sparks in the air, but that's not working. And so they just have to keep brawling out. Some grapples, Bane's winning even more. Batman's HP is getting super low. Batman casts Darkness, pulls another trick out of his sleeve, but Bane has Devil's Sight and can see through magical darkness.
You think darkness is your ally?
That's where that comes in.
Yeah.
Bane takes him down to 0 by denting in his cowl.
Oh, when he just hit... Oh!
Just smashing in his head.
Oh, that hurts so much. I can feel that in my stomach.
And then the comeback. Batman, maybe he rolls a natural 20 on his death save.
That's perfect.
And he gets up one more time and he says, "Oh, I was wondering what would break first. Your spirit?" And he breaks his back.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Nat 20 on the death save. He's back up.
People in movies always do that.
All right. The last one I have for you is Conan the Barbarian. How much do you remember this movie?
The original Conan.
The original, yeah, with Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah. The very first adaptation of Conan to the big screen.
Honestly, not a ton. I don't remember very well, but...
Jason Momoa looked the part, but
yeah,
Arnold, I don't know. There's still something about him and that the roughness of an 80s movie, because that movie had some grit. So Conan in the scene, he's fighting a giant dude named Dragon, and Conan has retreated to, like, he's pissed off. Valeria, his love interest in the film, she's a badass. She's already perished, and now Conan is gonna fight these guys to the death in his little trap-laden hidey hole fight scene. And so he's fighting the big dude named Dragon, and he's getting his ass handed to him. Just, again, HP being taken down, thump after thump after thump, all mostly non-hits, but while whittling his HP down to next to nothing, Conan's laying on the ground, and the bard, I want to say she was a bard fighter, cross-class, Valeria, shows up in like a weird ghost image, and just Conan's vision, just as Dragon's about to do him in with a final blow, she casts blindness and heroism on Conan, giving Conan enough temporary HP to finish the fight. And then Dragon makes his con save and regains his sight, and the fight continues until Conan eventually just whoops his ass.
But it gives them that little extra.
He gives them the moment
of a couple more little hits.
Yeah,
nice. And I think that this segment would be incomplete if we didn't at least mention Wolverine when it comes to healing.
Well, that's the person that's using a homebrew rule and is like, oh, by the way, I get HP every single round forever.
He's basically a troll in D&D that somebody's playing.
Yeah. He's the guest player that's brought in his own homebrew. My last DM said this was okay.
But yeah, he's a good thing to envision when you're just picturing health coming back.
Okay.
Like he's always got bones cracking back together and literal wounds healing.
Yeah.
In any fight scene, he's taking damage and recovering it one way or another. I mean, maybe he is just a healer. Maybe he's a cleric that keeps casting Cure Wounds on himself.
Sure.
And in
Cleric Barbarian cross class with a little bit of fighter in there.
Yeah. There's a lot of
subclasses.
But in the end of Logan, he specifically injects himself with a serum. So that's a definite
Health potion. Yeah.
That improves his healing factor. That's the closest thing I can think of in a movie to a literal health potion.
That's exactly it, yeah. Well, cool. So that kind of wraps, I suppose, that up. I'm out of ideas.
Really? That's
it? I'm done.
All right.
I've used my brain power for the day.
But, I mean, bad guys and good guys can go down before they hit 0 for dramatic tension. Remember?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your hero can take a knee, and you can describe taking a knee without mechanically taking a knee. You know, you can go down, you need help, you need the help of your allies. And that's the whole reason we play D&D as an adventuring party.
Yeah.
Is because everyone's supporting one another.
And maybe somebody just gives you an inspiring word without healing you, and that gets you back up. There's so many options for role-playing in combat that can add so much dramatic weight to these scenes that we're playing out.
And to spin off of that, there's a lot of things that players and DMs can both do to telegraph their HP without yelling out, "Need heals!"
Yeah.
Like, you can do some really cool things, and exactly that. You can take a knee. You can say, "Oh, my character is looking depleted in that they're fighting slower, or they're not able to keep their shield up.
Yeah, their arms heavy.
Trying
to wipe the sweat out of my eyes.
They're losing energy, and that can telegraph to the cleric, if you're playing with a good cleric, to say, "Oh, I might need to cast some healing word or some cure wounds on my player."
Might have to walk up and touch you.
You're back to the pervert character.
Full circle.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Let's wrap this up. Thank you to Tabletop Audio very much for the sound effects that you hear in the episode.
And you can follow us and talk to us about episodes and all kinds of things, what you liked, what you didn't like, or just tell us about your game. What's going on in your game and how you use healing and think about healing in your games.
Please do. And how if you have some wicked ways that you've used healing spells, we're becoming more active on Discord especially. So pop in there and give us a chat.
So you can find us on all of our different areas that we use, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and Reddit at Hook and Chance, A-N-D, Hook and Chance on all of those. And thanks for listening and play great games.